The results are in from an experiment with faster service on the Silver Line. The idea was to cut down the time at each stop along Washington Street by letting passengers get on board using 3 doors instead of 1. The trial run was conducted by the MBTA, the city, and a group advocating for bus rapid transit with backing from the Barr Foundation. To tell us what they've learned from the experiment are the MBTA's Deputy General Manager, Jeff Gonneville, and the Foundation's Co-Director of Climate, Mary Skelton Roberts. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Happy to be here.
I want to start with Jeff. This must be obvious to you at the TV for people who don't ride buses or don't do it very often. What's so tough about getting off and on?
So that is certainly an interesting question. And in the world of transportation, we refer to dwell time, which is the amount of time that whether a bus or a train stops at a stop and passengers get on and off that bus as is referred to as dwell time. And any improvement that we can make in the amount of time or dwell time that a bus sits at any one of these stations is an improvement. Now, on our buses themselves, right now, all of our fare collection is done and handled at that front door. So what that means is that as passengers or customers are getting on our buses, they have to pay their fare at the fare box on the front door. And as the bus becomes overcrowded, or as the bus itself you have a long queue of people to get on, that can delay that amount of time or that dwell time at that particular station. So where this is important to us is seconds matter. So if we can shave 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds off of a stop, that creates a far more reliable situation, a far more reliable service that we can provide.
Mr. Skelton Roberts, when this experiment was taking place earlier this year, people didn't have to pay. They could get on the Silver Line through 3 doors. These are long buses, so normally it could take a long time to go from the far back to the very front. But when you were riding the bus that week, what was it like for you?
It was pretty fascinating. I mean, one of the things I personally saw, people were able to get on the bus quicker, and they said, "Wow, this doesn't typically happen." So they experienced a quicker boarding time. The other thing that happens as a result of that is when people get on the bus faster, then there are more buses that can come into the station. And so what it does, it also can reduce the numbers of people that are waiting. I take the bus in the morning in Jamaica Plain, so I take the bus 39, which is in Jamaica Plain to Forest Hills. If there are 1 or 2 people queuing to get on the bus, it's not that long of a wait. When you start having 10, 15 people, that's when being able to get on the bus by all the doors makes a huge difference.
Now, you covered the anecdotal part, but what about the figures overall from this?
So the survey that was done, and Jeff, you have probably more data than I do, but the survey that we did as part of this demonstration, 65% of the passengers felt as if their ride was faster. So they not only experienced a quicker commute, they had a more pleasant ride as a result of being able to get on quickly and grab a seat.
Jeff, what about the numbers overall? What did they tell you?
So I can tell you that typically what we saw for the amount of time that it takes to, on a good day, and what we would be in the median. So the average amount of time at a stop is about 25 seconds. When we did the pilot, we saw about 19 seconds. So that was about a 5-second change. And saying what I was saying earlier, that means a lot to us. But more importantly, what we also saw is on the bad runs, that the times where the buses were behind schedule and the platforms were more crowded, or the bus itself was more crowded, we saw a 30% reduction in the amount of time that it took for our customers to get on and off of a bus. So what that means, again, is that people are getting on faster, the buses are moving back onto the road and moving along the route faster, and that ultimately gets the next bus into that station faster, which increases capacity and it improves on the reliability of the system that we're actually providing.
This is BNN News. We're talking with Jeff Gonneville from the MBTA and Mary Skelton Roberts from the Barr Foundation. Mary, you did a video that compared the process with the normal and the experimental. I mean, it's pretty noticeable.
I'm glad you asked. There's a video that ITDP, the Institute for Transportation Development Policy, did that compared what it is like to ride on that Silver Line when you have to board using 1 door versus all 3.
It's pretty dramatic. Yeah.
It is pretty dramatic, and I think more importantly than the actual 5 or 10 or 15 seconds is that people no longer feel like cattle. When you're able to get on those doors, it's a very different experience than if you're waiting in line, and particularly in a place like Massachusetts where it gets really cold. 10, 15, 20 seconds makes a big difference.
Jeff, one thing you're not going to be able to continue with anything else in the system is free rides. So
Sure.
How can you get revenue and still speed things up?
So the authority right now is looking to make several changes, and one of the first key changes that we're making is a project that we refer to as AFC 2.0, but it's a modernization of our fare collection system across the entire system. We are actively underway right now with a procurement process to update our system, and we will have an updated fare collection system on all of our buses by 2020. Now, it sounds like a long ways away, but for the amount of work that it's going to take to get us there, it actually is not that far out. And what that'll give us is it will give us the ability to board on all doors, not just on the Silver Line, but every bus across the system. So these improvements that we've seen on this particular pilot that we ran, we're going to be able to see that across the entire network. And partnering with all of our communities and municipal partners, the City of Boston, Cambridge, Brookline, Everett, and others, if we can implement traffic signal priority and other modern uses of technology, we really believe that we'll be able to make some significant improvements in our bus
Not just
service.
buses, for trolleys too, right?
Correct, correct.
Mary, what about the potential that you've learned from this? Because as Jeff indicated, this is more than one mode. So how important is this?
For us at the foundation, we have the benefit or the luxury of being able to pilot and test new ideas. And one of the things we wanted to test at the foundation is, would it make a difference in terms of time savings, but also in terms of how people were experiencing this ride? And there's one thing to say we think it can, and there's another to say, well, we're going to help fund a demonstration so that there's evidence there that can then help inform future decision making. So we think this is a really important first step, and we're thrilled to be able to partner with the MBTA and some of our municipal partners just to explore, are there other things we could do to test bus rapid transit and how to improve our transportation system?
I have to ask you about one of the things that I've experienced over the years on buses and trolleys too, is that when you're going through a crowd to go from the back to the front, it's stressful, isn't it?
Boarding all doors relieves that stress.
That's right.
You now go straight into the door and you get a seat wherever it's closest to that door, so it relieves a lot of that stress. Not just on the riders, but also on the bus drivers as well. They're trying to get their buses to go on a particular schedule, and they're on a time frame, and the slower that bus goes, the more stress it provides for them. So this is in some sense a win-win.
Jeff, what about potential to get more passengers and revenue and still have the capacity to have the quality for that too?
So again, that's a really interesting question. One of the things that we have heard overwhelmingly from all of our customers is the thing they want the most is more reliable service. And what we know is that this is one step to really getting us to that more reliable service. If we can manage and reduce the amount of bad trips, so to speak, and again, this pilot, 13 seconds, that 30% savings, that's significant. And we can reduce the amount of those bad trips, and that means that we'll be providing a service more or on a greater, more reliable schedule.
Mary should finally mention that there is some more information on the website kept by BRT Boston.
Boston BRT.
Boston BRT. Right. Thank you very much for being with us, Mary Skelton Roberts and Jeff Gonneville.
Thank you.
Thank you.